Hermes Agent continues to impress the world, and people are migrating from OpenClaw. The stars are adding up on GitHub, and Hermes recently released computer use. So now Hermes can control your computer. But which models are you using to control it and why? In this video, we are going to do a fresh install of Hermes Agent using a private model with the Venice API that does not store any of your data, so you can use Hermes Agent with the privacy intact. We will set up Hermes Agent to manage our macOS computer, organize the desktop, create reminders, even create a little chat widget to interact with from the desktop. Now remember, this is all brand new stuff, so it might be a little finicky on your machine, but this is a great skill to practice learning to train your AI to run your computer. So in a few months, when all this stuff is normal, you will be ahead of the curve. Let's get started. So to get started, we just copy this command here, click copy. And then you're going to open up a terminal on your machine. Just search for the terminal. You can find it. I'm going to paste that there. And this installer script is going to do the rest. You'll see all this computer looking stuff show up on your screen, and that is installing all the dependencies that Hermes Agent needs, such as Python, Git, Node, Node.js, etc. So let that run for a bit, and then it's going to automatically run this configuration command, the Hermes setup. We don't have to run that. It's going to do it on its own. And here we are. We'll just run with the quick setup for now. And we're going to add Venice as a provider. Now, by the time you watch this, you'll probably be able to find Venice here on the list. But as of right now, we have to add a custom endpoint. And that is https api.venice.ai/API/v1. If you want to copy and paste that, just head over to docs.venice.ai and click the API reference tab. And you'll see just right here for setup that URL that you can copy. So we'll submit that. And now we're going to need an API key. You can get an API key right here on the API section of the Venice user interface. Just click generate new API key. I'll call it Hermes Agent, generate key, and copy that. And then paste it into the terminal. If you're new to Venice, I recommend checking out the DIEM token. Once you stake this token, you will get recurring $1 credit in API access to Venice every single day. This can be very economically helpful with AI agents. Next, we get the model list, and we see all the available models from Venice. Now, we can also see this model list here on the docs. If we just click models and text, we can see all of these same models, and we can see if they're private, if they are anonymized, if they are intent-encrypted, etc. You can also see the context, length, and the tools that this model can do. So for example, Claude Opus 4.7 can do function calling, reasoning, vision, and it's code optimized. Gemma 4 Uncensored, however, is uncensored and it's private, and it's much cheaper than Claude Opus 4.7, but you only can do function calling and vision. So ideally you find a model that's pretty good at all of these things. Kimi K2.6 currently is a strong competitor at 85 cents per million tokens input and $4.66 per million tokens output. It does all of the things, function calling, reasoning, vision, and code optimized, and you get a 256,000 token context limit. If you compare that price to GPT 5.5, for example, you are saving quite a bit. This is $6.25 and $37.50. So you're saving quite a bit of money here, and you're going to have similar results, believe it or not, but don't take my word for it. Try them out. Mess around with different models. Kimi K2.6 is a popular one, DeepSeek version 4, as well as Qwen 3.6. As we see, this offers all of these as well, and it's even cheaper than Kimi. So let's use that one, Qwen 3.6 27B. If we see this here on the list, we have that right there, and the number is 13, so I'll type in 13. We'll let it auto-detect the token length. We'll call it Venice. And now we have our provider set up. So next, we're selecting the terminal backend. Now what's neat about Hermes Agent is that you can select where it will use the terminal when it needs to run it certain commands. So you can have it run locally on our machine, which is what we're going to choose, or you can have it open up an isolated Docker container to use a terminal. It can run on a cloud, it can run on Vercel, it can even run on a remote machine like a VPS or a Raspberry Pi you have in your house. So these are cool options for more advanced usage. I'm going to skip the messaging platform, because the purpose of what I want to use Hermes for right now is to use it locally on my computer as privately as possible. When I use Telegram, Discord, what's up. For example, these messages are all stored somewhere. They're not necessarily end-to-end encrypted when I chat with it. So you're adding a middleman into the situation. I want to use Hermes just straight on my computer, just with the AI powered that connects directly through Venice to the model with 0 data retention, and that's it. So we'll skip messaging. And now it gives us a summary of what we configured. And we also see that if we add some more API keys, we can get more tools available. This can be fixed because, for example, with the Venice API key, we can do image generation, and that's more configuration you can do. What is cool about Hermes, if we launch it now, is that it is very capable of working on itself. So here we go. It's open up. We see its tools. We see its skills. Now there's quite a few tools and skills here I'm not going to need. So a good way to get started with Hermes Agent is say, help me clean up the tools, skills we won't use. And now we can see it auto-detected the 256,000 token context length. And we've already used 16,000 tokens just in that first chat. And that's because it's loading all those skills and tools. So that's why we want to optimize this right now. The default Hermes agent is very capable, but it's not necessarily super token efficient, which is why we're going to start by cleaning that up. So we get better performance. You can see here, we have the Hermes message in its own little yellow box. And then we see that it's looking at the skill file. It's using a terminal, and then we get a message back. And even our model here knows these are all built-in skills. They bloat your context window and system prompt, even if you don't use them. So it wants to know, what do we want to do? So I'm going to say, I want you to be my computer manager. You're not doing my work for me, but you're helping me stay organized. My files, my desktop, etc. Think of me as your personal digital janitor and organizational assistant. Okay. So it's suggesting now which tool sets to keep and which to disable. Now, I do agree with most of these. I do want skills though, and I do want code execution. Now, you'll see here computer use. This, as of the time of recording, is new with Hermes. And that's what we're going to play with in a little bit here. I'm going to keep skills. I don't want to disable the skills tool sets. This, I believe, enables Hermes to create its own skills when it needs them for tasks that you delegate to it. So yes, also keep skills and... All right. And I accidentally sent that off too early, but I basically wanted yes for each of these questions. So now we're going to see how Hermes agent powered by an open source model is going to optimize itself with no data retention by the provider. So now we're getting a nice warning that the remove command was blocked because that could be a security issue, right? It's on our computer and it's letting us know where those directories are. They're all inside of the .hermes folder. So yes, I approve. Now, this could be dangerous in general. I am installing on a pretty fresh machine. There is no sensitive or personal or just really important data on this computer, which is why I'm starting fresh with Hermes agent here. But it is recommended you install these on their own devices, a Mac Mini, a Raspberry Pi, something that doesn't risk destroying your whole life if it accidentally deletes something. Now, there's no guarantee that will happen, but it isn't unheard of. And on another note, if you follow along here, it's just really fascinating to see an open source model do this agentic work on itself in a lot of ways. The agent is working on itself. It's just doing such a good job. These open source models really have come a long way. So we went from 5.2 megabytes to 160 kilobytes, 97% smaller. So we need to restart Hermes, but first, while we're in this conversation, let's just tell it to yes, set up the cron job and the memory entry, because that will be forgotten about after we restart and enter a new conversation. So let's just have it set that up while it knows what we're working on. So let's start a new session. We do Control-C to close this. And now we can just type in Hermes and it will start it again. And now we can see that there's many less tools and skills available. So say, let's continue your setup here to be my computer manager and assistant, so I can focus on my work while you keep my machine clean. And now might be a good time to activate the computer use tool. Also want to practice your computer use tool. Make a plan for our setup. Now, in general, making a plan is very helpful so your agent can stay on track. Every agent follows plans differently. And now we can see in the beginning it loaded the planning skill as well as the macOS computer use skill. So it wrote the file for the setup. So here we have the plan. Phase 1, audit the current state of the computer. Phase 2, practice the computer use tool. Phase 3, establish organization conventions, like rules we're going to follow and how we want this to work. And then we'll set up an ongoing workflow. And we'll also make Hermes agent load on computer boot. So when the computer starts, it'll automatically load and I don't have to worry about, is it running or not? Is it going to forget what it's supposed to do? So let's answer its questions here. How aggressive should cleanup be? Always archive old stuff. Any folders that are strictly off limits? For now, no, but potentially yes later. 3, want daily check-ins or weekly report? Daily check-ins. 4, organization style. Desktop minimalism, organize screenshots, and keep folders organized. What do you suggest? And now you can see here is we are still only at 6% of the context length. Remember, we were a lot higher than that before we disabled all the skills. So we've got an efficient Hermes agent getting started here. Okay, here's what I suggest for organization. We'll organize the screenshots in the pictures folder. Oh, I forgot about that folder. Downloads, anything older than 7 days, moves to archives. Oh, great, that's a great idea. But keep screenshots on desktop, keep downloads, archive in downloads. Archives of folders should be inside the root. All right, so those are my preferences. You might have other preferences for yourself, but yes, I like that. All right, so here it goes. Didn't require any more confirmation from me, just ready to go. So let's think about this. So far, we've had Hermes agent with an open source model, edit itself, configure itself, modify its skills and tools, create a plan, create an organization strategy. So it hasn't done anything yet, but let's take a look. Here's our desktop. There's some screenshots. We'll keep that open up here. And this is a pretty new computer, so there's not too much going on. And we also have some things in the downloads folder that can also be removed. Yes, do those 2 things. I will eventually get to a point where it'll remove the archive folders because I don't know if we need those, but at least it will keep things clean for now. Now, we just saw the downloads folder here. Now we have an archives folder and in the desktop as well. Cool. Those are now in the screenshots folder. Neat. Now we're going to practice computer use. Oh, I don't even have to tell it. I'm just going to go for it. Let's take a look and see how this goes. We're not even at 10% context window. This is great. And it's working. I've said this so many times in this video already, but don't sleep on these open source models that Venice provides. They're so much cheaper and they get the job done. You don't need Opus and GPT for everything. So it looks like we need to reset the session to load computer use. And I'll just, This starts a fresh session. Proceed. Let's continue. It's checking its memory now from our most recent conversation. I do like seeing everything Hermes agent is doing, which OpenClaw doesn't do by default. You can actually shut that off in the configuration if you don't like it, especially if you're using WhatsApp or something. Maybe it's kind of weird to see all the notes. So now it's loading the computer use skill. So one thing was missing from our setup, and Hermes agent took care of that, installing the Qwen driver, and now we need to grant it permissions on macOS. So we take this command here, we copy it, paste that into the terminal, and now we're going to see that Qwen driver would like to record this computer screen and audio. So yes, in order to use the computer, it's going to need these permissions. Remember, you're giving your AI a lot of power here, so make sure you're doing this on a machine that doesn't have a lot to lose. Now we need to quit and reopen it. And now let's see if it's working with this second command. Needs to do it again. The terminal needs to do it now. Open the terminal back up. Let's run that command again. It looks like we need to do the accessibility permission again. So a lot of permissions we got to give here, right? And we got it. Cool. So now Let's go back to Hermes agent, and we just have to type Hermes into the terminal to launch it. Let's practice the computer use skill. Let's see. Now, it has it in its memory. It knows what's been going on, so it should know exactly what we're doing here. And now we can see that we need to give permission for CoDriver to use. It looks like, all right. Okay, so we're all ready to go, but there's one quick thing you may or may not have to do depending on when you're watching this and if News Research, the Hermes agent team, has patched this for custom providers. So over here in my reminders app, which we're going to use in just a second, I have a prompt here. And this is going to be below. You can find this prompt, but you're going to need to feed it to your Hermes agent. And what it's basically saying is to make a patch in its own code so that the computer use tool with screenshots will not overload the context window. Because unfortunately, this is just a bug in the code that we have to fix. So first thing, we're going to send that through, and we can even say, check your code. Do we need to do this? And then that way you'll know if it's already been patched in the official repository or not. This type of thing is actually easier and easier to fix because the agent itself can do it, but we have to be aware of it. And sometimes it can be a little confusing or off-putting when it came out of nowhere. Okay, so it looks like we already got it fixed. So we're all good here. Let's start a new conversation. And here we are. We're gonna say, let's practice the computer use tool using the reminders app. And I'll even just mention the current note in there is to be provided to the audience when this video goes live. Otherwise, I want to create a system of notes corresponding to my projects folder. So I have a projects folder. It'll scan all those projects, and then we'll just create folders or something. I've never used the reminders app. We could also use Obsidian, for example, to have maybe a little more flexibility with markdown files. But for now, we'll just go with the default apps on macOS. So now it's using the Apple reminders skill, and it's using the computer use tool. And I'm keeping the reminders window open up here so we can see the changes it makes. See, we got the cursor moving. That's fun. These kinds of things can be a little finicky, but once it learns, normally it does a good job after forevermore. Now you can see this focus keeps getting stolen. So a tip here is try not to keep anything open that doesn't need to be open, especially while it's learning. All right, we got our reminders, cool. So now we have lists of reminders. We'll say yes to all 3 of the suggestions. I also want to create a folder for video tutorials like the one I'm creating now for Hermes agent computer use. And we should set up cron jobs to ping me and remind me as to how they're going and update the to-do lists. We should have to-do lists per project. So part of this for me is really just exploring how it works and what it does. I don't generally use these apps, and I've never had an AI assistant that just controls my computer. So that would be my recommendation as you mess around with this. Just see what it does, see what works, what doesn't work. Remember, if you're not satisfied with the results with these open source models, you can always use the more expensive frontier models, but you will be sacrificing your privacy in the trade-off for performance. So it's done a bunch of things here, created the reminder lists, which unfortunately I can't actually select while this is running, which is a little bit annoying. Okay, so I've got everything open here to close this off, but then what I would like to try to do is add a widget over here for Hermes agent. So let's just prompt Hermes to see if it can do this. I'd like you to start on boot every time I log in. I'd also like there to be a Hermes agent widget in the left side of the desktop, similar to the calendar and weather widget. So ideally the widget there I can just chat with, and I don't have to open the terminal, and I don't have to use a messaging app. Okay, so it's been working. I had to install Xcode, which Hermes agent walked me through, and now it is creating the Hermes widget over here which just disappeared. And it needs Xcode to build this because that's how you build basically software for Apple products. So I'm going to stop it real quick. The widget appears, but it should be moved down to not overlap the other widgets. Can we put a chat input text box here that automatically sends? So now it just takes a little bit of finessing, but this is what is possible now. And you could theoretically create visual widgets for anything you want now with an AI agent on your computer in Xcode. And then with computer use, the skill with Hermes agent, which is only going to get better. I will definitely admit this is not incredible right now, especially on an open source model. I have a feeling if you were to use GPT 5.5 or Opus 4.7, we'd probably have better results. But this is also saving a lot of money in API inference costs. This is interesting too. One of the options it thought for routing the chat input from here is just to hit Venice API directly. So that could be a whole other project. I mean, even without Hermes agent, you could just put a widget on your desktop to just access any model via the Venice API. If you're interested in seeing a video where I build that, drop a comment down below because it could be fun. And now we're just vibe coding widgets on our desktop. Okay, here we go. The gateway is running. We got the model. Okay, so as it turns out, you actually can't type in these widgets. You can't even move them. So we're just gonna say, in that case, forget it, but show me a list of whatever is planned, scheduled by Hermes agent, what it's currently working on, etc. A dashboard UI with a button to open up the terminal with the Hermes command to chat. So it was going to just create a titled window, like an actual app window, but I kind of want to stick with the widget format here so it can feel more like locked into the OS. And we'll check back in on that. Okay, so here we go. We've got our sessions, our scheduled jobs, and we really just have the possibilities now. We can see what's possible here. If I close Hermes agent, let's see, I'll click that button and it opens up the terminal for me. I'll have to fix that so it automatically opens up Hermes. That's no problem. But there you go. And in conclusion, we can now have a fully private AI running a really cool agent framework on our computer, act as a manager and assistant on our computer, and the possibilities are endless. So I hope this video was inspiring. Thanks for watching. Share with us what you're working on in the Venice Discord. There's a link below. And if you want more tutorials on using AI agents with a focus on privacy, hit that subscribe button.